Welcome everybody, and thank you very much for joining us today. So today we're going to be going through some examples of cybercrime and then how best you as a business can protect yourself. So there'll be some time for a Q&A after, so please submit any questions that you have during the webinar and we can go through them at the end. So your IT department was formed in, bear with me, I think my system's just crashed out. Everything with IT, can't always trust it to work all the time. Right. There we go. Let's give this another go. So your IT were formed in 2009. We now employ 15 members of our team in Eastbourne and Nottingham. The main thing we provide is IT support and managed services for clients, also a mixture of telecoms, cybersecurity solutions, and much more. We've won numerous industry awards, and also we're a Microsoft Silver Partner, WatchGuard Gold Partner, and we're also Cyber Essentials Plus certified. So to start things off, we're going to watch a video. So yeah, here we go.
Hackers are everywhere. From Ashley Madison to JP Morgan, from Jennifer Lawrence to the federal government, our biggest celebrities, corporations, and institutions have all been the targets of devastating cyber attacks. I wanted to see how bad a hack can get, so I invited a few of the world's best hackers to try to hack me and show me where my vulnerabilities are. And now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas at DEF CON, the biggest hacker convention of the year, and see what they found. This might not have been the best idea. DEF CON is the biggest hacker convention of the year. It's a place where thousands of hackers come to hear talks, to demonstrate their newest hacks. It's actually a place that's so dangerous to be on the internet that they tell you to turn off the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth on your phone. And they tell you not to use the ATMs too, because those could be hacked as well. This is the DEF CON ballroom. This is sort of the main room where things are happening, and it's pretty wild. I think this is car hacking village. This car is locked. Can you get me in?
I'll unlock it for you. Should be good.
Hacking is no longer like this fringe activity, and if you are at DEF CON, there's a good chance that you're here because you want to learn what could happen to you or your company.
Anyone here first time in the SCCTF? Holy crap.
I invited Chris to hack me with his team, but they're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
We help people with human security issues by testing vulnerabilities for like a network test, but it's for the people network. We test those vulnerabilities, see where the holes are, and then help people learn so they can patch them.
Can we try some of this? Can we try some?
Yeah.
See if it works?
Yeah, we probably could have our star visher here make some phone calls as
Let's do it.
Sure. Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider
Okay.
and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. My husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry, I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for usage information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
gmail.com?
Jessica gets my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account. Okay, my
Jessica
name is
uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Yes.
I really thought that my cell phone company would protect me. I mean, like, this is the most basic stuff, and they're not doing it. And if they're not doing it, you know all these other businesses aren't doing it either.
Anyone with a phone and an internet connection can do social engineering. But I was curious, what can a hacker with serious coding skills do?
Well, DEF CON is the world's biggest hacking convention. It's hacking everything, hacking social, hacking hardware, hacking software, hacking various systems.
I asked Dan Tentler, a well-known security researcher, to turn all of his firepower on me.
I did get into quite a number of things that I found.
So what were the first things you did? How did you start hacking me?
I quickly found your Squarespace blog and had an idea. Basically what I did was created a bogus Squarespace site and sent an email to you, a fish asking you to go to this website, run this certificate installer.
And I did it, because
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
So once you ran that, it gave me access to your computer, and I created several fake pop-ups that looked like system pop-ups that would ask you for your credentials.
You didn't even have to have my passwords.
No, you gave them to me.
I gave them to you.
Yeah. So I stole your 1Password keychain.
And 1Password is where I store all my other passwords. So effectively by...
And your social security number and your Amex stuff and all your stock trading and bank information. I can send email to everyone in this room as you. I am you right now, if I wanted to be. If my evilness is working correctly, it should actually be taking pictures of your desktop and pictures through your webcam every 2 minutes. And I have been watching you for about 2 days now. In coffee shops, at your mom's house, on a plane. Here's your editing stuff. There's you like.
Oh my God, so this is literally
every 2 minutes.
through my webcam.
Yeah, through this guy.
How badly could you have messed up my life?
I could have made you homeless. I could have made you homeless and penniless.
How?
Like,
How would you make me homeless?
Like, I have control of your digital life in its entirety. I have all your credentials. I have all your access to all your financial information, all your work information, all your personal information. I can pay people with your bank account or your Amex account. I am you. I can fully impersonate. Like, the only thing I couldn't doctor would be like your fingerprints.
This is like as bad as it gets.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's bad.
So it turns out that Dan Tentler is very good at his job. I mean, he hacked the hell out of me. He got everything. Well, I mean, frankly, I want to take my computer and throw it into the deepest part of the ocean, and I want to become a hermit, and I want to never touch a piece of technology again, because holy shit, that was everything. That was the keys to my entire life, and he just pulled them out of his pocket.
So as you can see from the video, it's so easy to become a victim without even knowing it. So a couple of the topics that were addressed in this was vishing and phishing. So vishing, which is voice solicitation, which is, in this example was used for social engineering to change passwords, but it can be used for so much more than just that. And the second part was phishing, getting him to update a security certificate on his Squarespace account. The most common one that we see is suspicious email activity from Microsoft 365, which asks you to click a link and change your password or re-enter your credentials. So the estimated cost of cybercrime in the UK is 27 billion. But how is this all made up? So as you can see from here, the two main factors is IP theft and espionage. So if you've ever been to the cinema to watch a film and you're waiting for it to come out on DVD, you might have had to grab some more popcorn or nip to the toilet, so you've missed a bit of the film, and you can't wait for it to come out on DVD. Well, you can stream that online or torrent, download the film, and that is a form of IP theft. So that's specific to that one industry of the movies and TV industry, but they have an average revenue loss of between 40 to 97 billion dollars in the movie and TV industry alone because of IP theft. So espionage, you might think of James Bond rocking up in a flashy Aston Martin, but this is more a group of people that are hacking foreign governments or a major business competitor. So no martini shaken, not stirred, more like a lot of monitors to work from in a dark room. So the smaller numbers are the ones that have less impact on the overall statistic, but to us, these are the most important and impact our back pockets more, such as customer data loss, extortion, and online fraud. So as you can see from Action Fraud, who record computer misuse offences, this number continues to rise year on year. And I think in 2020, during the peak of the start of lockdown to now, there's been a 160 to 200% increase in cybercrime. Business email compromise. So this is a form of cybercrime which uses email fraud to attack organizations, commonly known as phishing. So this could be an invoice scam, spear phishing spoof attacks, which are all designed to gather data for other criminal activities. Consumer privacy breaches often occur as a result of a business email compromise attack. Typically, an attack targets specific employee roles within the organization by sending them a spoof email. These could be CEOs, directors, finance directors, those senior colleagues of a level of trust. Or even it could be a trusted customer or supplier. So this email might issue instructions such as approving payments or releasing client data. The emails often use social engineering to trick the victim into making bank transfers to the account of the fraudster. That is exactly what happened in that video. So some examples of business email compromise. Dublin Zoo lost 130,000 euros in 2017. A total of 500,000 euros was actually taken, although most of it was recovered. An Austrian aerospace firm was defrauded 42 million euros for an attack in February 2016. And they actually fired both the CFO and the CEO as a result of this. New Zealand Fire Service was scammed out of $52,000 in 2015. And Ubiquity Networks lost $46.7 million through a scam in 2015 as well. So as you can see, the two most common financial losses relating to business email compromise, fraudulent transfer of money, and obtaining personable identifiable information of staff to use in future attacks. So a new ransomware attack occurs every 14 seconds, and that was as of 2020. So they're saying by the end of this year, it would be every 11 seconds. So you don't always just think about the phishing. There are so many other elements of cybercrime that need to be considered. So what industries are constantly under attack? These are the top 5 that might get the most hackers targeting them. But even SMEs that don't fit within these industry classifications are at a huge risk. So why do you think that this would be the case? So this forms part of the mentality of small to medium-sized businesses. At first, think they're too small. Just don't believe it will happen to them. It's only the big guys that get targeted. Sometimes it can be expensive so if you do not allocate a specific budget to cybersecurity, or it's kind of just all roped into IT costs. Inconvenience, then you want the flexibility to use free and expensive software and unrestricted resources. So using a lot of free crowdsourced based systems But then the main thing and the main downfall of SMEs is blind trust. They believe their IT team, basic firewall, and antivirus has them covered from every single attack possible. So we call this the light bulb analogy. When you look at things like this from an SME perspective, you start to think, okay, maybe something else, we need to be doing something else, we need to be doing something more. But then it always comes back to the feeling that cybersecurity and hackers only target the large organizations. So yeah, but there's always going to be large organizations attacked, and we are going to know about them, mainly because these are huge companies that everyone will know. So from a newspaper point of view, or media point of view, they're the easiest ones to pick up on. NHS, we all know about the ransomware attack. This was due to updates not being pushed out. EasyJet were hit in January last year with 9 million details leaked and 2,208 customer card details leaked. They only actually let people know about that in April. eBay in 2014. So in 2014, a cyber attack was carried out. 3 months before that, the company had urged 145 million users to change passwords. So, there's been a lot more attacks of these big guys than you would hear about attacks from the small people. So it brings me on to a very recent one, Manchester United. So in November 2020, Manchester United were hit by a cyber attack. So it actually originated from a phishing email, which is what they believe. So they were held to ransom, but they weren't actually allowed to pay the ransom, or if they had insurance that told them to pay the ransom, they weren't allowed to do that. Now, this was because they floated on the New York Stock Exchange, and if they paid that ransom, they would be funding criminals or whoever, and that would be a breach of US legislation. So they would have had a 15 million fine, even if they had paid it in the first place, which they will not, which a lot of companies do tend to do because it's the easier route to go down. And sometimes insurance companies actually tell you to do that. So if it turns out that personable identifiable information was breached, which they say that there hasn't been any breach of personable identifiable information, but hypothetically, if that was the case, they could be looking at a fine of around 30 million from the ICO. So in terms of other ones, you have British Airways. Now, we'll remember attack of British Airways in 2018. It was announced that 380,000 passengers were affected. It actually turned out that the real number was above 500,000. Now, this was because of a third-party piece of JavaScript called Modernizer, and BA had not been updating it since 2012. Not to worry you, but I believe even to this day, its payment page, BA's payment page, still gives access to third-party scripts. So when you pay for flights for your transaction, your transaction is not segmented away from the access that these third parties have. As you can see there, the simple fix could have saved them from the huge fine. Although 183 million, humongous amount, it was actually reduced down to 20 million, and that was in 2020. Now, whether COVID played in any parts of that, we're not too sure, but they got away with a sizable chunk of that getting taken off. So this is relating to Marriott Hotels. So Marriott Hotels, obviously worldwide, everyone kind of knows the name or may have stayed in one at some point. So they bought a company called Starwood, who ran some of the hotels. They swallowed up their systems and the hotels into Marriott's chain. So it turned out that Starwood had been breached before the buyout was even on the cards. So some hacker had breached Starwood's, and then lo and behold, ended up by Marriott buying them out. So absolute jackpot for him or her. So Marriott tried to claim that it wasn't their fault because the management, or because it was management of Starwood and they didn't own it at that time. But this was actually shot down because they didn't do any IT security due diligence. If they had done this, they would not have faced a fine for 99 million. So, if you're buying businesses, make sure you do an IT security due diligence. This eventually was actually reduced down to 18.4 million. So why don't we hear about small to medium-sized business attacks? Well, one most important thing, it's not really newsworthy. It's not a widely known company. So if you're not on the FTSE 500, no one, or multinational conglomerate, no one really, it's just a name. It doesn't relate to anything. Extremely embarrassing to admit. Some people don't want to say because they could lose clients, which kind of follows back to the horrible PR elements. Do you want your clients knowing that you've potentially leaked their information? No. Legal ramifications. A lot of cybersecurity incidents actually go unreported. After GDPR, everyone is supposed to do is, if there is a cyber attack, you need to declare it to the ICO, and the ICO will investigate. Although we are pretty much 100% certain that is not happening for SMEs. Definitely happening for the big guys, but not so much the SMEs. Which follows on to why SMEs are targeted so much more than these larger organizations. Think about it like a fishing analogy. Yes, catching a big fish is great, could feed you for a week or a month, but it might take you 10 times as long to catch it, and obviously the potential risk of starvation. But if you can catch 3 to 5 little fishes every day to keep yourself going with less effort than trying to catch the big one, wouldn't you do the same? So here's then an example of a law firm and what happened to them. 5 million encrypted files. They paid a £20,253 ransom. All the backups were corrupted. They were down for 2 weeks. Why were they down for 2 weeks if they paid the ransom, backups were corrupted? So let's think about this, how much data you hold on your systems. Let's say you have 5 terabytes worth of space. Now, this is not just the files and folders. It could also be the operating systems, the servers, and the virtual machines. So if it takes 39 hours to restore per terabyte, based on a standard connection in the UK, this could take 194 hours to restore all this data. And to put that into perspective, that is longer than traveling to the moon and back. So I think this is even more relevant now with what the unprecedented times that we're facing at the minute with COVID-19. If you're out the network, then you are not getting the same level of protection as you would do if you were in the office. Now, this leaves businesses exposed. You might have a UTM firewall with a security subscription from us or your IT provider, sat on the network protecting your systems. But if you or one of your team click on that phishing email that has a malicious piece of code or anything like that, then you are completely bypassing that firewall by bringing your laptop back into the office. Think about it a little bit like a human Trojan horse. So as you can see there, malware found in 45% of home office networks. Now, the minute that 45% go back into the office, that malware has the potential to spread to all the PCs in the office. So here's some real life examples of types of attacks that we have dealt with here at your IT department. So we've had a client paying thousands due to CEO director abroad whilst on holiday. A lot of incidents of ransomware being brought on the network by remote workers and even breaching through firewalls, phone divert scams, multiple Microsoft 365 accounts being brute force attacked, remote desktop breaches from phishing attacks, and 365 account rule changes due to phishing attacks. So all of these situations that we dealt with had a different range of security countermeasures in place. Somehow, and in some ways, they still managed to get away through. So what can you do to protect the business that you work for? There's three key elements that you need to think about with this: attitude, behavior, and action. So yes, we've been through the big guys. We've also touched on the SMEs, local and own examples. But if your attitude towards cybersecurity is blasé, then you're not gonna sort of be able to protect yourself. The behavior of staff is, oh yeah, we can do whatever we want. We click on this link, we do this, we do that. Then yeah, you're not going to be nearly as strong as what you think you are. And then action, if you're not doing anything about it, again, you're not going to protect yourself if you're not thinking about it. So by changing your attitude towards cybersecurity and realizing that every business is a risk and you can't sit back and rest on your laurels, by changing your behavior, by more of a zero trust based element where everything that comes in, you're scrutinizing it. Is that email real? Is that document real? Could that person be potentially trying to phish me? Is that how that person would usually talk? So, and then the last part, action. You've got to do something about it. You can't just sit around talking about it in a meeting and that. You've got to do action. So this forms part of what we call the data responsibility pie. So the first part of it is you, the data owner. So the data owner of the business owns the liability and establishes the budget for protecting the data. Now, the information technology, which is usually filled by us or an internal IT team, implements solutions and are custodians of the data. So make sure it all works and everything's looked after. But there's a whole separate part to this pie, which is information security. Now, it's the information security's role to provide risk insight and mitigation information for the data owner. Without all three elements covered within a business, then you're opening yourself up to exposure. At least if you're talking about it, having those useful conversations, changing your attitude, changing your behavior towards it. But then its key part is the data owner acting on the information that is given to them. So this is how we look at it from our perspective is, we may not fill, as a standard, we do not fill the information security role. However, we can introduce elements that do look after that. So how can you protect your business? So there's some quick, easy things that you can do that we're going to take away from this webinar today that will make you more secure. But there are other elements that take a little bit more time to consider. So most of our clients have what we would call the ticks on there. So your spam, updates, security, firewall, encryption, and the backups. However, what we want to make sure is that other elements are taken into consideration. So mobile device security. If you don't know what your mobiles are doing out there, then it could be a potential risk. Dark web, you've got exposed credentials on the dark web, or even multi-factor authentication for 365 accounts and other types. So it's about how do we introduce those elements into your business, and how do we help you and provide you the right information in terms of what you need. And this all starts from a security assessment. So the last thing we want to do is throw a security solution at one of our clients or at you for the sake of it. We want to make sure that we're putting the right security measures to protect the right systems. There needs to be an in-depth discussion as to why do you need it? Who is it going to be aimed at? What is it going to protect? And how will this improve your security? So this all forms part of brilliant analogy of the NIST framework, the house analogy. So obviously we all live in a house or a flat. So, what is it in your home that you want to protect? You want to protect your family, collectibles, valuables, electronics. How do you protect those? Doors, windows, locks, cameras, signage. So that will help protect your house. So if someone's trying to break in, how do you detect? Alarm, motion sensor, doorbell camera, neighborhood watch. They are parts that will stop someone. If they see you on the premises, they can help you get rid of them. So respond, you might have a dog. Insurance can help. The police, always call the police. Or, you might have a trusty 9-iron that you can arm yourself with. So how does this relate to cybersecurity? So the identify, protect, detect, respond form part of the NIST framework. So NIST is a National Institute of Standards and Technology, and they have created this cybersecurity framework for businesses and in terms of how they think about it. Very similar to the IASME consortium way of doing it, although this is just a little bit more tangible and understandable for non-IT people. So you might have a business, you might have a cyber incident response plan, backup systems, cyber liability insurance, and emergency equipment. So how does this relate? So critical assets. How do you protect your critical assets? You might have a firewall, antivirus. Detect, do you have EDR, endpoint detection and response? DNS, content filtering. Do you have an IT security team to help you with the situations? Do you have a threat analysis? What we always tend to find is there are elements of this that aren't even considered or looked at. So if we use this as an example. So let's say your financial systems, you have your current firewall, antivirus. How do you detect someone might know that something's gone wrong? Give IT a call, and you may have insurance and backups to get you up and running if anything went drastically wrong. So what the NIST framework tries to do is create this into this. So it's not, the solutions themselves are not what's important here. It's that this is the aim, that you go from the slide before to the slide, this one. It might take months, a year or longer, but it depends on the perceived risk of that business. And of course, most importantly, the budgets. Each step can be priced out, prioritized, given a time scale, so that you know that as long as each step along the roadmap improves the security of your business. So one further element of the risk assessment would be to look at existing compromised passwords and credentials. So this helps set immediate remedial actions, such as changing your passwords. This can also help us identify where weaknesses might be in your current cybersecurity arrangements. This is where we need to talk about the dark web. So what is the dark web? So the surface web, this is what search engines find, Google, all that kind of thing. What actually they do is they send out something called spiders to search and index web pages for you. Once it arrives on the page, it will continue to build its web of search pages, hence web. The deep web is where you'd find your bank accounts. Facebook Messenger is deep web. Locked Facebook posts are deep web. Your blog dashboard is deep web. Your Netflix is deep web. Your Amazon order history is deep web. Anything that cannot be picked up by Google search classes. I'm using Google as an easy example there because everyone knows what Google is. So anything that Google does not pick up is classed as deep web. Basically, anything that's password protected. So you use your VPN, that's the deep web. But as you keep going down and down and down through the deep web, you move ever so closer to the dark web. So the dark web idea was actually originally created in the late 60s. It was a concept first published by a group called ARPANET, which actually was US Advanced Research Projects Agency. So it was an element to interconnect 4 university computers in Stanford and MIT in America. So although it started out as an academic project, the military, obviously this was during the time of the Cold War, quickly found a use for it. The actual first ever online transaction was an illegal transaction, which was in the early 70s. And this was actually to buy and sell cannabis between the 2 universities. So that was the first ever use for the web. So eventually they split off. So there was a military element to this and an educational element to this as well. And the military element came what's called a browser called Tor. So as you can see there, it says Tor. Tor is a route in to the dark web because you can't just browse there from Google. You've got to get in this way. And it is actually invested, 60% of Tor's investments and funding comes from the Department of Defense because it is literally used for spies around the world to communicate back to governments. So everyone thinks the dark web is evil and horrible and disgusting and all that, but it is actually primary focus is military, which is always quite interesting. So you may have all heard about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. So actually news outlets like the New York Times and the Guardian host dark web drop sites for people to upload anonymous tips and documents. So there's a bit of an overall summary about sort of those 3 different elements of there. So how does that relate to cybersecurity? Well, the dark web is where you buy and sell online credentials. You even have a CRM system solely based on deploying ransomware out to clients. So it's quite a scary thing to look at. So stolen credentials are sold on the dark web. Now those are used to access the deep web and the surface web. So they're used to try and gain access into the systems. So, they might do this and then gain access and then leave and wait. So this is where the statistic of 197 days is the average length of time it takes for an organization to identify a data breach. So what is a dark web report and why does it matter? So this is a dark web report that we have done, and this is ourselves. So as you can see on here, you have LinkedIn, Dropbox, and a few other, Canva as well. So if our exposed credentials are on the dark web, that does not mean your systems have been breached. This means that any third-party applications, such as Dropbox, such as LinkedIn, your password for that account has been breached and is available to buy on the dark web. So as an initial scan, we can find out immediately if those passwords are real by asking the question, and if they are, you want to get them changed as soon as possible. So we do an initial scan for everyone on this webinar, and we'll send it out to you with a few other information as well. But this will give you that immediate remedial action to take place. If there are any exposed credentials out there that you can get that changed. Now this, to put it back into the NIST example, this forms part of the detect element of that. So the next steps from today's webinar, we'll send you an email or something in the post with links to some cybersecurity videos, some books and ebooks, with a copy of the dark web scan as well on there. And we'll give you a call to discuss the results of the dark web scan and to arrange a time to undertake a free cybersecurity assessment. So we now move on to the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please submit them. Okay, so we have one here, which is, what is the biggest risk to cybersecurity within a small business? So I think the biggest risk to cybersecurity is your people. You can have the most up-to-date, flashy, advanced cybersecurity solutions out there, but at the end of the day, if your people don't know how to use them or are causing breaches because they're going out to the pub, shouting out what their Microsoft 365 password is, then that's your security flaw right there. So what should we do first? Well, first off, change your passwords if you haven't got a password policy in place. Enable some sort of two-factor, multi-factor authentication. Ensure your operating systems are patched and your antivirus is up to date, and that will give you quite a good start. Okay, is dark web scanning a part for Cyber Essentials? No. So dark web scans are not part of Cyber Essentials. What Cyber Essentials will do is run what's called a vulnerability scan on your network, but dark web scanning is not part of Cyber Essentials. We wish that it was, because it would hold a lot more weight to that Cyber Essentials certification. But it is highly recommended to fill the NIST pillars that dark web scanning is from. Great. Well, seems to be all the questions that we've had. So yeah, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And if you do have any questions that I haven't been able to answer in this, please don't hesitate to get in touch and we'll see if we can help you. Apart from that, thank you very much.